Welcome once again to your favorite show, 250 Chat on Prime TV, coming to you every Monday at 7:30. We're here again at Four Blooms in Kimihurura, right beside Kim Hotel, right? Yeah. And we're back again with a very, very interesting topic that we are going to discuss today. And the topic is, do you have to experience a burnout before you start engaging or even thinking about self-care? So, who has...
First of all, what is burnout?
What is burnout? Does anyone want to contribute?
How would someone define burnout?
Okay, I think Muga has something to say.
So for me, burnout is when... Well, let me first define burnout in my terms. Burnout is when when I feel I've tried doing... I'm sitting in the office, I'm trying to do stuff, and I'm just getting distracted very easily by cats on YouTube. Cats on YouTube is just a joke, but there are many things that can distract. I'm very easily distractible, so I don't think distractible is an English word, but that's But we move anyway. So I'm very easily distracted. I'm fatigued. You know, there are days that you wake up and you're just like, what is work? Man, it's like you were working the whole night, yet you had a good rest, 7-8 hours of sleep. That means that your mind maybe did not rest. So you find that even when you go back to work, you're not really focused, you're not really attentive, you're not productive because your mind is not there. The burnout, that word is actually quite on the nail, because you actually burnt out, like your mind is burnt out because you're using other things to distract you, yet even those things are still not distracting you from what your issue is. That is burnout for me, I guess.
I want to use an example to sort of define what being burnt out means for me. Recently, a friend of mine was traveling from Rwamagana to Kigali, and then they were driving. So he had spent a couple of days before, when he was telling me he's really tired, he's exhausted, his mind can't take it, he actually can't function very well. And so when he was driving, coming back to Kigali, he actually was driving dozing off. He would have to be in shock to actually now function and drive very well. And that is what I would describe. You're at an end point, so you're just like, I cannot function. So is that when you actually need to be like, okay, maybe I should take some time off and practice some sort of self-care and take care of myself, take care of my mental health, relax and rest very well. That is what I would describe as that.
There are bills to be paid. We live in a capitalist world, so it really doesn't make sense to me when we keep talking about burnout.
For me, burnout sometimes it's just mental, but sometimes it also becomes physical. Most of the time, the way I experience burnout is almost the same as you. It gets to a point where I cannot be productive at all. I could be working on a document and be on the same page for the next 2 hours, looking at it. I'm not even distracted. I'm not going on to YouTube or social media or anything, but I'm looking at the page and I literally can't figure out the words written on it. Sometimes it also becomes physical. You get so tired to a point where your body can't take it anymore, and it starts manifesting physical symptoms of a sickness that you don't even actually have. And you will wake up in the morning and literally feel drained of all energy, and you can't even wake up and go to work. Or you start experiencing some pain, in your back, or even your stomach starts to hurt or something like that.
Okay, this whole burnt out, I don't know. I think I don't really get it, because I think maybe we want everything easy.
Just a question. Have you guys ever experienced burnout and then you feel as if maybe, you're tired, so you go in at night when you're sleeping, but you can't sleep? It's like your mind is still racing and you're still anxious. I don't know whether it's anxiety, but you're just thinking of stuff, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do this. But when you actually do get to the office the next day, you can't do any of that stuff. You can't pinpoint and focus on one thing and do it. Have you guys ever experienced that?
So much. for me so much. And I feel like you guys have really explained well what, burnout is. And I also feel like it has a very close connection to being overwhelmed. And that happens to me a lot when I feel like I have so much to do, but I do not know where to begin.
Yeah.
And then that keeps me up at night. I'm like, oh, I need to do this, then I need to do this, then I need to do this, then I need to do this. And so many times, actually, I think it was just last week when I realized I don't have as much as I think I have. I'm just not organized enough to know what to do now and what to do later. So yeah, for me, it's more of being overwhelmed. Oh, and sometimes it manifests in the physical. Like I wake up, literally I've slept, okay, maybe not for enough hours, but I slept. I wake up in the morning with a headache. Like I was sleeping, I'm supposed to be fresh, but then I wake up with a headache, and that happens to me so many times. And that for me is like, yeah, maybe you need some time off, or you need to do something as simple as even going for a massage, or yeah. Now onto the self-care aspect of it. For me, what works for me a lot of the times is a massage. Like I feel like, let me go, have a massage, relax. It's actually relaxing on the physical as well, emotionally and mentally.
You don't have to wait to experience a burnout in order for you to think about making your life better. Think about it now. Start doing a few things that are not even costly, but that will help you be better able to handle stress, to handle, being, overwhelmed, or even prevent you being overwhelmed.
Now I get the picture, and because this is pretty much something that happens a lot, especially in the workplace. You all work, so this happens to you. I mean, some days I wake up, go to office, bring up a Microsoft Word document, and that is it. Just stay at it and go on Twitter, your Facebook, you're just there. Then so like I'm distracted, like Bruce said, but you cannot seem to bring out any idea or any thought. And what happens is, at the end of the day, I feel tired, yet I didn't do anything at all. And I'm like, okay, I didn't do anything, but again, I feel so tired. But I think what is happening today is we do not know when we are actually burnt out. You just feel like, for writers, they call it like a writer's block. You just feel like, okay, maybe I'm just experiencing that, I'll bounce back, or probably you just need to read something or anything. No. One thing that we as people haven't fully discovered is to know when we are actually exhausted and we need to rest, or you need help, or you need to do something. What we do, we keep pushing because you think, I'll get over it. And in the end, nothing happens, but stress just increases. And of course, with stress comes all other effects that you can think of. So I think maybe we need to get to a point where we understand, or where you realize that, no, I cannot take this anymore, and take a step back. But of course, there we'll talk about how, because we usually have different workplace policies and politics. But if you feel like you're burnt out and you need like a day or two to go chill, are they going to actually allow, or they're actually going to pile more work? So that is a discussion that we can talk about it. But to me, I think what we should realize all this, maybe if we can talk about other signs that we can think of, not just ideas not coming out. How can someone tell that they're actually burnt out and they need to take a break?
What if you're a business person or a business entrepreneur and you have burnout? So what are you meant to do? Because you need to be at your company, you need to be at your business where you need to run your stuff. So who's going to run it for you if you're not there?
Can I respond to that? Okay, depending on the role of the day-to-day roles of different people, yeah? Sometimes it might not even be staring at a blank paper. Sometimes it's just delivering just because you have to,
yes,
but not going the extra mile of what you're expected to do. If you're supposed to be a bit more creative, a bit more innovative, you're supposed to maybe give recommendations and all of that. You're still doing what you have to do, but you're just doing it because it needs to be done.
Yes.
Right. And if that pattern goes on for a while, maybe, sometimes you have bad days and you're just like, you know what, not today. Yeah. It's just a busy day, it's a crowded day. But sometimes if you see such things, you're not being as productive as or you're not having the full potential that you know that you could have, and it's ongoing for a while, then that could be a sign that maybe you're burnt out.
So, guys, I wanted to ask you now, how do you, maybe each one of you can answer, how do you guys deal with your burnout individually? Because I'm sure everyone experiences burnout. For me, I'll start. For me, well, it begins, I believe, it begins with small things like making your bed in the morning. If I'm burnt out, I will usually I don't make my bed. But if yesterday I knew I was burnt out, today I'll say, well, I've rested, I should be fine. So I'll make my bed. And there's a certain sense of achievement that you get. Like, okay, and you make it to do the best of your ability. You know those ones where you throw a coin, it will bounce back. So you make your bed properly. So and then you just go through your day knocking out tasks, and you feel somehow some sense of achievement, and you also hype yourself. You hype like, hey, now I made my bed. Now let's see if I'm going to get some good breakfast before 7 o'clock, or maybe before, depending on the time you wake up. So you just set small goals that you try and achieve before the day ends, and then I feel as if I find myself going back to my achievements. When I'm in the office, I start with the simplest. If I feel, because there's always one task that has made you burn out. There's one task that you fear, or you're really skeptical on going. So I put it last, or sometimes even I put it in the middle. So I begin it, or there are different ways. You can also break it down. Let's say, like, if you are writing an essay, so you just say, okay, I'll write the body. That's it. I'll write the body before midday, and then maybe I'll write the intro again maybe before 4 o'clock, something like that. So when you hit those targets, slowly by slowly, you feel as if, at least I'm getting somewhere. I'm getting somewhere today. So me, that's how I deal with my burnout. Maybe you can share on how you deal with your burnout.
One day we shall talk about people who don't make their beds, but that is but
have you realized one day never comes?
Yeah. When I'm burnt out, the first thing that I need to do, because I'm this kind of person, like I like to read. I read a lot. I read a lot of news, a lot of stuff. So I try to minimize on reading things that are hard or that have facts. Or I try to read something light, something that will make me laugh, something that will not require me to think a lot. I'll look for something light. Listen or maybe listen to some soft music or watch TV, but I reduce on my reading because I cannot afford to take in more, so I need it to relax. Number 2, I usually get someone to talk to. So we just sit and have random conversations. We'll talk about different topics. We'll talk about different issues. We'll talk about, because I really like having people around me. I really love having people around. So us being around, and then we talk random, the things that are random, that are hearty, that I laugh, I'll do everything. That really helps me a lot because it really brings me back. It's like I'm refreshing my mind. So pretty much that is how I deal with my burnout. Look at the things that you want to set you free, because if you're at work and you feel burned out and then you leave work, then you head to a hangout joint to go talk about work, then go home, watch movies. You're not even releasing your mind at all.
I'm a bit like you, Din. First thing, I love reading too, so that's what I resort to most of the time. But the other thing is I love music, like way too much. So I have playlists. I have actual playlists that I know I'm gonna, they match the mood kabisa. The moment I know I'm feeling some type of way and I need to just find a way to get back to to get my mojo back, I know like what specific playlist to go to. So that helps a lot. The other thing is finding somebody to talk to and avoid talking about work. Unless you feel like you want to unburden yourself, but avoid talking. Like, just find someone who you can be stupid with. Have a good laugh. Have a few bottles if you want, but someone who gives you a genuinely good time without necessarily, forcing it or anything. That also helps. The other thing is I am an insomniac, right? So sleeping is mostly out of the question, but I still have to find some way to get some rest, even if it means just going into bed and going under my covers and not sleeping, but at least, going to a place where I can just feel relaxed. The other thing, very cliche, is meditation. It was a bit hard in the when I first doing it. Started doing it because I could not clear my thoughts. I would literally sit there for 15 minutes, and I would, I'm trying to quiet down my thoughts. I'm trying to get to a place where I'm feeling like, and next thing I know, I'm thinking about a scene in a movie that messed me up 2 years ago. And I'm like, why did that happen that way? Why was the director this way? So, but with practice and doing it much more often, you get to a point where you're able to, to quieten your thoughts. Now, going to the other question, which is, the question we're discussing: do you have to wait for a burnout for you to kind of take some self-care, options or steps? I don't think it's good. Unfortunately, that's what most of us do. We wait for the moment where we're feeling terrible, like out of it, and then we say, oh, wait, this is the moment. But it shouldn't be like that. It should be that it's like any sickness, really. It's better to prevent than to heal, right? So it's better to know what things should I do in order for me to not experience a burnout in the first place. How do I arrange my day to start with the smallest tasks and then go big as the day goes and feel like I've accomplished something? Because sometimes it's also about, like Sherry said, not being able to organize your thoughts and organize your tasks, and then you feel like you're overwhelmed by things because you don't know where to start, and that helps. Let's first try to change our mindset about how we let the things, the activities that we partake in, whether it be our jobs or other things we're involved in, affect our health and affect our well-being.
But the reality is that a lot of us are not in positions to unilaterally make the decision that I'm burnt out, so I'm not going to work today, or I'm going to take a vacation right now. I work in a place where my manager sees the numbers. He sees the bottom line. We have a budget for this year. We are this far from this budget, so all hands on deck to make sure that we are achieving those goals, because there's someone over him putting that same pressure on him. And it's really the company culture where I am, but also in a lot of places I've worked in and at a lot of the places where my friends work. I think that we are in these spaces where people are so obsessed with not struggling, which I totally get because I came from a family that struggled. So as a result, you're just chasing this dream of like, I need to get this generational wealth going. Like, I need to get this money so that my kids don't have to do this the same way. Or maybe it's to pay for these weddings that we were talking about a different day. We're obsessing over having enough money to have the lifestyle that we want. Our employers are doing the same. Someone's breathing down their necks with the same energy. And so it's all well and fine to want to take that break, but who can? How many of you could wake up on Monday, feel extremely tired, and call out? I know some people can, but realistically, who can just take that mental health day without warning?
Yeah, actually, that's a very good point to bring up. And maybe another thing to add onto that is we live in a capitalist world. So you're trying to make ends meet. So you find Dean works from Monday to Friday. Saturday is probably the only day he rests. Sunday he has a gig. Or even actually Saturday you're even looking for a gig to place there. Why? Because you're trying to get that money. So the luxury of a burnout is not an option that you actually see. Recently, I was reading an article. It was about the drug scene in Kampala, and there's this lady who was interviewed, and because her job is so demanding, she has resorted to drugs. She has a supplier. She has resorted to cocaine because it keeps her going. So you find ultimately, because I always hear people, secure the bag, secure the bag, secure the bag. But now that bag is actually bringing more problems, because she said some employers don't even want to hear that. All they're looking at are the numbers. So if you cannot deliver, you'll head out, and a certain Bruce will be in your position.
We are people that do have more privilege, certainly, than others. And yet we also feel that same pressure to secure the bag, as Dean said, and to keep going to attain that next level. So what is the level where you're finally satisfied with what you have, when you finally feel like you have enough that you don't have to let yourself be burnt out, always chasing after the dream and always trying to hustle?
This is what is happening to most people in our age group right now, because yes, people will say we are young, so you cannot get burnt out and all that, but the amount of work that you're doing is too much. You're juggling like 3 different jobs on top of other side things that you're doing, so it really becomes difficult. So I find that like Bruce said, do you have to wait to give yourself self-care until you actually get burnout? The answer is a simple no. You should be able to get that personal day off, or have a weekend to yourself or anything. But the way of life, the way how we are living, the cost of living cannot really allow us to do that. So that is where the problem comes in.
We keep talking about having a burnout at work, or like being at work and you just want to rest. I think sometimes it's not just work. Sometimes it's a lot of other things. It can be your friends. It can be life in itself. Literally existing at some point becomes super hard. You just don't even know how to function when you wake up in the morning. You're just like, I don't know what's happening to me. And so it's not just work. It's just like life in general happening, things moving. A lot of things changing, and that can also give you sort of like you're just down, you can't function, you're super low. And I think we can always like check that and not only focus on work, right? And I also think trying to practice self-care in so many different ways, it can be also the most simplest things, because we keep talking about going for a massage, and that means you have the privilege for that. And it might even be in a certain point in your life where you have that privilege. I mean, you're financially stable at one point, so you're able to afford going to the gym, you're able to afford going for a massage, but not all the time. That even people who don't even have that privilege to ever think about a massage, right? So I think for me, it's understanding who you are and what are the most simplest things that do not require a budget, that do not require you going out of your own way to practice self-care.
I think it's really interesting when Bonita brings up the point about having the privilege to self-care and to not allow oneself to be burnout, because it makes me wonder, what is the limit to that?
So for me, I would say I love to be in a state of mind where I'm super calm. I don't like to be around people, unfortunately. I don't. So I'd like to.
Are you saying we should leave?
No, I mean, not all the time. I have moments where I literally don't want to be around people. And that's because I've been able to figure that out. So I don't let it give me stress, me going out of my own way to say, okay, yes, let me go to this kahunda, yet I really don't want to. So then I'll just go home and chill, light up a gun and just chill, you understand? Because that helps me. You come in your office, your laptop, tada, you open, na. You work from 9 to 5. That is it. Every day. That office structure is literally the same routine of your entire life. That is it. And we do not want to check that. We don't even have flexible hours of working. And I think it's high time. I believe it's high time. We create a certain way of working. It can be remotely, or it can be also in the office, but have it more, you exchange ideas, it's more engaging. You even have places that are not just a desk and a chair, and that is it. You understand? I think we should be able to take that burden off ourselves and be able to communicate our needs to the bosses, which I think is really hard. But I think checking our privilege and being able to practice the most simplest things that help us with self-care. That is it for me. I don't know about you guys. But this topic is actually one that is super close to my heart, because I believe self-care is sort of like a lifestyle that I have to have every day. I don't have to wait to be at a point.
Self-care. So I like what Bonita said about we are attaching this to a point of privilege, and it's okay, by the way, to attach that to a point of privilege. You're actually among the few people who can do that. So if you can afford to do something that makes you feel better, that makes you feel relaxed, and you can, finance it, that's fine. You can do it.
That's true. I love some of the. Do you want to say something? Yeah, I love some of the things you said about finding more ways to practice self-care that are not costly, and that's very true. Because sometimes you think that burnout is, the office and we're tired, but we don't also look at some of the other things that contribute to us being that tired. Let's say you spend the whole day at the office and you're super tired mentally and physically, but then after the office you go and meet up with friends at a bar, and you drink a few beers and then you go home. But then maybe what would have been best was for you to go home and get that sleep early, So those are some of the things, a few things that we can look at in order to be able to take care of ourselves without necessarily having it, take a, an economic or a financial toll.
So how do you actually differentiate between someone who's lazy and someone who actually has burnout? Because there are other people who, from day 1 to day 7, they are burnt out. They say they are burnt out, but they're actually just lazy. So how do you differentiate that? And you find that a lot in the workplace. So how do you differentiate that?
Yes.
Before we conclude, I like what Bonita said. There's a lot of points that you mentioned, and one thing that I want to add is sometimes like these burnout triggers or whatever is causing the burnout is repetitive, and one of the ways is not noticing that this thing is actually making you burnt out. I've mentioned this when I spoke earlier about being overwhelmed, and sometimes it's just around setting your priorities right, really, and knowing, I think you also talked about it, and knowing what's more important and what isn't, and what can wait, and who you need to be around. Actually, burnout can also come from, like Benita said, people around you, relationships, family, friends. Just look at this person, you're like, I am tired. Like, you're just exhausting me right now. So it could really be a lot of things. But one thing that I really want to emphasize on, if something is repetitive, then maybe, maybe there is something that needs to change with you, because again, it starts with you. And even about, it could be the workspace, it could be anyone else, but again, it could be you. And even for the workspace, if you feel burnt out, it's your right. Yeah, you said, sometimes these people just want to see the deliverables happening, and you cannot keep on saying, I'm not feeling well, I can't come. But again, I think even as we grow older, I think getting into the workspace, especially at this age, is a very new thing for this generation. People used to work when they are much older, but now in our generation, we're working when we're really young. And I think as young people who have access to all of these privileges, it's also good that by the time you get into something, maybe like a job or a role, you should be able to, if you know yourself well enough, you should be able to communicate these things and say, when I'm burnt out, this is what happens. And when it happens, this is what it's going to be. Like if you can set that, if you feel like there's room to do that, then do that. Yeah, but no pressure.
No pressure.
Another very important thing that didn't say to me that I would like to say to our viewers, because I believe it's important. If you cannot afford the massage, date a masseuse. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have come up to the end of this show. We'd like to once again thank you all for being loyal fans and loyal viewers who always check in on us every Monday at 7:30 on Prime TV. We're very, very happy and lucky to have you. I'd also want to thank Four Blooms once again here in Kimihurura, right below Mamba Club and beside Kim Hotel. Yo guys, listen, if you haven't checked out their burgers, their fries, there's chapatis, their wraps, their hot dogs, their salads, man, you're missing out, I'm telling you.
Can you
So
go have one?
Right. Yeah. You're very right. Let's wrap up. All right. So catch us up on our social media handles: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at 250 Chat. Also on YouTube, and be sure to tune in every Monday at 7:30 on Prime TV. Thank you very much.